Hello there. My name is Maquerez, although I also go by Angel Emil. Uh, I uploaded some time ago the, the Terra Battle Fangame. Terra Battle was this game that was cool on the phone, but regrettably was eventually taken down. The servers got shut down, and you can no longer play it. So I decided to go ahead and um, make my own version of it on TTS. I mean, I'd like to eventually print it for myself and having the possibility of playing it with the cards on my hands, but uh, well, uh, currently it's quite um, comfortable to play it on TTS, so that's what I'm doing. Alright, in this video I'm just going to be reading these um, rules that I made for the game. Although fair warning, it's a bit long, so it will take some time. Well, uh, let's go ahead and start reading this, okay? Well, this is a introduction you can read yourself when you download the mode and play it. But long story short, I wanted to make it. I wanted to make the game because there was nothing like it anywhere, and I loved too much the art style, the story, the gameplay. I mean, even though I was not exactly a too community-oriented player or an active player at all, I really loved it. The game stuck with me throughout most of my life, so I just wanted to have it back in any kind of, in any shape or form. So yeah, well, this game I had planned for it to have 3 different campaigns. Since if you remember or if you had the chance to play the game, there were 42 areas in total. Since going through all the 42 areas would be a little bit intense, I decided to divide them in 3 campaigns. Campaign 1 has the areas from chapter 1 through 15. Campaign 2, 16 through 30. And the last campaign, the last 12 chapters. Uh, for now, I have only made the first campaign, so the first 15 areas. But eventually I'll get down to making the other 2 campaigns, which will be harder. The enemies will have more stuff to them. So my recommendation is to just start with this simple campaign deck and test whether you like the game or not. I also had planned to make a PvP. I don't know how feasible it would be to make a 4 players game, but at least a 1v1 is surely a thing we can make. I have thought of some of the rules and how it should be played, but I'm not going to be covering that in this video. So without further ado, let me introduce to you some of the things we have. The main thing we are going to be using to play the game is the board. Unlike the original game, which was 6 by 8 grid, this is just a 6 by 6. We have the columns, which are A, B, F, C, D, E, F, and the rows 1 through 6. Then we have the meat of the game, adventurers, the thing you're going to be liking the most. We have normal adventurers, and within this rarity there are units that are able to be recoded, so recode cards of normal rarity. Rare cards, recoded rare cards, and special cards, and recorded special cards. You will start most games by recruiting 6 adventurers of the lowest rarity and work your way up to the highest rarities. We also have the monsters. There are 6 monsters in each area. We have the healer, the warrior, the mage, the orbling, and the archer for the first area. A pretty simple beginning. However, if you do not want to face 6 enemies at a time, you can just draw the 6 from the same area and pick as many enemies as you want to add to the board for that round. I mean, that's a difficulty setting. If the game is too difficult for you, or you are not too accustomed to working your way through the game, you can start lightly. There's no need to be a masochist like me and have all enemies at once. The game flows. The game flow is generally you have your six adventurers on the board. You pick the enemies from the area and roll the coordinates they're going to have. So, for example, if we got a 1-1, this enemy would go here. If we got a 6-4, the enemy would go to the row 6, column 4, so here. And that would be it. There are things to be explained about movement and positioning for the monsters, but let's go in order, shall we? So, as I have already explained, we start the game by drawing our 6 adventurers. So let's do that. Although, let me shuffle this first. So these are the 6 adventurers that are going to be part of the tutorial video. Ah, Grace, she had to be here. Grace is an archer. Since I'm going to be talking about adventurers, let's talk what's in an adventurer card. So, Grace, she is an archer. From these cards, there are a few aspects we must bear in mind. To begin with, the rarity. Although you can always check what rarity an adventurer is just by checking the back cover, you can also check it on the upper right corner, which has an N for normal. Rare units have an R for rare, and special units an S for special. Then we have the weapon, which is on the top left corner of the card. There are archers, there are sword fighters, spear masters, and staff users. Then we have the skills. On the bottom left corner we have the summary of the skills. Some units have Pincer, which is an offensive skill. We're going to be talking about all the skills there are in the game because there are many later. But for now let's just sum it up as there are skills in the game, okay? There are some like this. But since she is part of the Holy Trinity, she needed to have something OP, so I gave her just that. So, aside from the skills, we also have recodification. Some units will have a little R icon below the weapon. So Grace, Sherbadan, Nakupi, Val and Haguna can be recoded. But Zenzoce, he never got the recodification treatment, so he cannot be recoded. Generally speaking, excuse me. Generally speaking, recodifiable units are weaker than non-recodifiable units. So let's take Grace and Zenzoce over here for a moment. As you might notice at first glance, Grace only has one skill, whereas Zenzoce has two. He has an offensive skill and a capsule. We're going to be covering this later, so again, do not worry. And the next part of to notice these differences is that Grace only has a 3 below the rarity icon. These 3 means steps. This well, since this is a grid and we cannot just time how long we're taking to make our movements, we're just going to be having steps. So Grace, she could, for example, if she were here, she could take 1, 2, and 3 steps. Whereas Zenzoce could take 1, 2, 3, and 4, because he is a non-recodifiable unit. So in general, although these guys cannot be recodified, they are generally more useful as soon as you get them. However, what happens when you do recodify a unit? Or recodify, recode, do excuse me if that bothers you. So, Grace now has 2 skills and 5 movement. So she got a lot stronger. She is now stronger than Zenzoce is, so that's the deal. Now, when you get a unit that you can recode, you're not going to be able to recode it immediately. You have to wait on list until the end of the next round. And but once you do that, you can get a very powerful unit. Let's continue. And last thing we have to talk about adventurers is the bottom right corner. This representation of the grid tries to convey what tiles this unit has advantage over. What is this advantage about? It is not about the triangle of carnage vantage thing that I'm going to explain later. No. Since 3 steps is too little, I mean, in the original game you could just it was time-based, not step-based. So you could just have your units move all around and take every unit in your team everywhere if you were quick enough. However, giving this game a step limitation, I had to also add something that made some adventurers perform better in certain parts of the board. So for that I made this this free range. So for example, Grace, she has these 3 tiles illuminated in this representation. These 3 tiles and this, and then these ones. So let me draw something over them so that we can better visualize it for this explanation. So this would be Grace free range tiles. So if she were here, she would be moving 1 step, 2 steps, and 3 steps, and then Grace would not be able to move any longer. However, what happens when you have Grace enter this area? This would be the first step, but then this step does not cut anything because this is her her free range movement area where she can move freely without spending steps. So she could do anything around this tile. I mean, she could well, she can get anywhere from this to here. And then she could take the second step, getting here, and maybe take a 3rd step. And then she got from here to here just by using this. In this game, diagonal movement also exists. I mean, if Grace were here, if she wanted to get to this tile, she would forcibly have to make 1 step here and another step here. Nonetheless, if she has an ally or an enemy, she could use them as pivots to only spend 1 step to get there. She can also use enemies to do the same action. However, if there is 2 enemies with adjacent corners, so to say, she cannot get over because they are blocking that path. Alright, and that would be it for the explanation on what's in an adventurer. Uh, yeah, so generally speaking, in this game you want to pincer your enemies. That's how you perform attacks. So, for example, let's say Sheverdan were there, and this knight were here, and Grace here. So, you would want to get into a pincer position. What is that? A pincer can be like this. You have an enemy completely surrounded from from the same orientation. So how can we get there? For example, Grace can move once here, and since in the original game you could switch unit position by flipping them over, if you move Grace over Sheverdan, they should switch places, and that would be step number 2. Since these are two allies, Grace can take a free movement into her free range diagonally and move all the way here and take her last step to finish the action. And that would be a pincer. About weapons, I forgot to mention. Grace is an archer, this is a knight with a spear, and Sheverdan is also a spear master. In the original game there was something called the Triangle of Carnage. It was a rock, paper, scissors system where spears have advantage over bows have advantage over spears, spears have advantage over swords, and swords have advantage over bows. So, to that regard, um, there is something that you should always be mindful about. If you defeat an enemy normally, like this, you would just add this enemy to your bounty and get its points. The points is also represented by the rarity icon on their top right. We're going to be talking about enemies soon. However, what happens if we defeat this enemy while enjoying a Triangle of Carnage advantage? Well, since there is no HP bar or any merit to overkill, um, when you defeat it with Triangle of Advantage, instead of getting just 1 point, you get an extra point. So, this guy is a normal enemy, so he would normally give us 1 point, but since we defeated it with advantage, we flip it to represent that it costs 1 more. And that would be much better. So we always try to get the kills with an enemy, with a unit that has advantage over your enemies. Okay, I think that's about it for adventurers. Ah yes, and lastly, you can also make this kind of pincer. When in a corner, you can surround it from above on the side, and that would be a pincer as well. And also, you can make multiple pincers like this. So that's always something good to keep in mind. What else? What else? Yes, let's talk about monsters. Where is Spinetrich? Give me Spinetrich. Well, yeah, I'd like to have a Spinetrich. Dracorin is not the one I'm looking for. Spinetrich. Hey, there you are. Okay. Spinetrich. Similarly to adventurers, you have rarities, which represent how many points they give when defeated. These are normal enemies, and these two are elites. Normal enemies cost 1 point, whereas elites cost 2 points. Eventually, in the game, there are going to be Nemesis rarity enemies, which have 3 points when defeated. For example, to show you one symbol for that, it would be this. But do not mind these metal minions, we're going to be talking about them soon. Yeah, so we have the points for the enemy and the weapon, which represent what they are weak to. Staff users like this healer do not have weaknesses. They cannot be defeated with vantage because they are not in the triangle. However, there are some skills that grant you advantage over staff users, which we will cover again later. Where were we? Yeah. So points, the weapon, and the most important part of the enemy description, the symbols and the skills. To begin with, we have the arrows, which represent what direction this enemy moves when they get to act. Then we have an attack pattern, which represents, let's say, let me make some space over here. We do not need them to be covering so much space. Let me erase these lines. Okay, so what would this guy make if it moved? It would move once downwards because it has an arrow pointing down, then it would strike horizontally, like this. So anything in this tile or this tile would be dead. And then it would go diagonally down and right. However, since there is a circle behind it, that means it goes all the way until it can no longer move. So normally it would be here, right? But then it goes all the way. If this guy were here, then it would make that one down, this attack, and then all the way there. So position matters. In the same manner, for example, this guy would go all the way down and then strike the entire column. To make some differentiation, I usually make movement be white and attack red, or the other. I don't know which was which. But do try to keep them differently colored, because that's going to be helping you. Now, if an enemy moves over another enemy, then, let's see. This Orbling is going to be moving over the Spinetrich, right? So it would go all the way down and then strike the entire row. However, enemies do flip with each other, so this Spinetrich would move one upwards. Then it would go once again one below, strike the entire, not entire, just horizontally, and then move all the way down right. How do enemies take their turn? In the game, whenever you made a pincer, the first enemy to act was the first pincer to occur was the leftmost and the closest to the top. So, in this regard, if we had, if we had this distribution of enemies, then the first unit to act would be the mage, because it's the closest to the, it's on the first column, then the archer is in the second column, then the healer, Spinetrich, and within this same column, the knight would be the first to act, and then the Orbling, and lastly the warrior. That's the order of action. However, what does happen when an enemy like this warrior gets into a position where it can no longer move? Then it's simple. You just rotate the entire card by pressing E or Q, and then it would take the reverse action, going all the way there. There are some units that are trickier. For example, this. I need this space. So, let's say this healer wants to move right, but she cannot make that move. So, to fix her positioning, she would reverse again, just like this warrior did. But then, since she has two symbols, her pattern has reversed. And since I'm not going to have you like uh, going like this to know what they do every time, I'm just going to recommend that you just follow from left to right, reading it like this. So she would move once diagonally up and then one to the left. But there are some times where she cannot take her second arrow. For example, if she were in this position, the healer would move once to the right, and then she would attempt to get it here to this tile. But since that's out of that's out of the board, she would take the reverse movement of her second arrow. So she would move here. Now, what does happen if she cannot take that second movement? Because if she gets here, she cannot move either here or here. So she would simply stop at the start of the next turn, or she would, when you are drawing the lines to know which enemy is going to move where, you will flip her and then realize that this healer is stuck. She cannot get in her first arrow neither here or here. So what do you do in these cases? Well, you flip this over and look at her first arrow. And then you slide the unit over the border she's going to be moving towards. So if she's moving towards this border, you move her to the tile she can move. Like this. And then you reverse her so that she can take her move. It's a little complicated, but what's important is that whatever you choose to do to fix these cases, you always do the same thing so that it's consistent. My solution, which I had somebody help me when I was streaming some of these videos, was to make this, but you can make your own rule for these cases. I mean, if you want to leave them there, stuck forever, suffering in pain outside of the battlefield, then so be it. It's up to you to decide. Okay, what else? Yeah, lastly, the icons for the units. So, Spinetrich, it has a thunder element, right? And this mage has a nice element, and this guy has a cloud symbol. There are many skills for enemies, or although I also have called them attributions, attributes, I mean, which make them behave sometimes differently. So let me go one by one. This guy is dangerous. Spinetrich is quite a deadly guy. What does Spinetrich do? It has the thunder element, which I have called fast. A fast unit upon deployment moves immediately. So, let's say we're drawing enemies, and then we take row 2, column 1. It would be here, you flip it, and then eventually you realize you have to move it immediately. So, I mean, if these tiles were taken by an ally, let's put these two here for maximum pain. Spinetrich would move once downwards, then it would strike horizontally once, and then move all the way down to the right to the bottom. Then Spinetrich would move once, kill Val, and then move all the way to the bottom, killing Grace. And just like that, immediately, you cannot survive that. These two units are dead. And these two units are the initial units you got whenever you started a game, so that's painful. The there is a way to stop this, but it's quite rare, and usually you get them from these units. I'm going to be explaining those when we get over skills for adventurers. Now, something that you need to bear in mind is that if Valve wasn't there, but here, whenever an enemy takes a movement that kills an adventurer, they stop. They do not take any further movement. So by running over Valve, the Spinetrich has ended its turn or its movement. However, that's only for arrows, for movement. When it is an attack, it does not stop there, even if it has killed someone. So that is why this Spinetrich got the 2 kills. As you can notice, this guy is an Orbling that has a very cruel skill. So let's say it was already to the bottom, then we would flip it. But then, instead of moving upwards first, it would first strike the entire row. So if we had, say, your entire team over, well, not there, because then you would be pinfering it and defeating it quite nicely. If you had these units here, then they would all perish. Yup. So beware of the attack range. That's why I always recommend giving them different colors, so that you can notice what is deadly and what is just painful to have happen to you. Okay, let's return this to the top. Okay, what else? So yes, we're going to be discussing a lot about these skills. So let's go one by one. That was fast. Let's have now. Well, there are some over here that are like evolved versions, but that they are thankfully not implemented yet in the game. At least in the first campaign, you are not going to be meeting these evolved skills. So Radiant, that comes from the element Radiance, which is the evolved version of Thunder. Upon deployment, move immediately twice. So not only this Spinetrich would kill Val and Grace over there, then it would turn around and take the reverse action, and well, that would be quite innocent, honestly. I mean, this is not a good position for a Spinetrich to be. It could be worse, a lot worse. So yeah, it would move twice and get anything in their way. So for example, if they were like this, then it would first eat this it would kill Val and then Grace. So quite nasty. But as I said, there is no Radiant element for now. Then we have Shadow. Let me search for it. Here. Shadow element. Whenever this guy is present, any adventurer that dies gets immediately removed from the game. So when your units are defeated, they are not completely out of the game. You can revive them with your healers, which are godsend. But if you do not have a healer and you do not revive these units at the end of the round, then they will get removed from the game and put somewhere where they do not get in the way. However, if your unit is defeated while this guy is present, they get defeated and taken out of the game immediately, so look out for that. The evolved version, Oppressive, which is for the corresponding for the Graviton element, excuse me for a second, I'm going to be lowering this a bit. Okay. Oppressive, when this is present, which is not oppressive, but it's imagine as if anything that dies is taken out of the game, including enemies. So if you say this was an oppressive guy and you defeated this enemy, it would be taken out of the game, not added to your bounty. So that's nasty as well. What do we have here? Hot. When a hot enemy, let me see. When a hot enemy enters the board, every adventurer moves once towards the top. So everyone would take one step towards the top. If they do happen to move onto an enemy, they push that enemy. And if they are already at the top, they do not move at all. There was ice, which is the opposite element. It's the opposite effect. They move once towards the bottom. As simple as that. So these guys would get pushed by Tenzoce, and that's it. Then we have the evolved versions for those two, which are Solar, Scorching, and Weightless, Lunar. At the start of every turn, they repeat the effect. So at the start of every turn, your units would go towards the top if it's Scorching, or they would move towards the bottom if it is Weightless. Okay, then we have Heavy. A heavy unit is like fast, but not. Let me explain. A heavy unit, which is represented by this icon, would, whenever you roll its coordinates, then you would place it normally, right? Bottom row 5, column 4. So here. However, what would happen if a unit were taking already that tile? Normally, you would take the opposite coordinate. So if it is 5, 4, you would take 4, 5. So that would be here. Nonetheless, if that enemy has heavy, then that does not happen. The enemy, the adventurer, gets smashed and they die. The same happens if you could place the enemy by reversing the coordinates. So if Val was here and you got 5, 4, then Lizard Hero would go here. But since it can kill Val if he lands over there, he just does that because it's the reversed coordinate. Okay, what else? We also have Resentful, which is a nasty skill to be facing against. As you can see, there are some enemies that have two skills at once. They generally do not have a complex pattern, but to make up for it, they are nasty to deal with. So, between these two icons, what was it? Resentful, was it? Yes, Resentful is the left icon, like the fist. It's for counter. When this unit gets attacked by an enemy that has vantage over it, an adventurer that has vantage over him, that adventurer also dies. So you cannot defeat them without paying the price. So just get two simple mages to do the work for you. The other icon, the step icon with a -1, is intimidating for bosses, which represents that while present, your adventurers can only move whatever movement they have -1. If there are this is accumulative, so if there are multiple enemies with this, they will be making your life a living hell. I mean, it's not that bad because as long as you have good positioning for your adventurers and you have access to their free range, you should be able to get things done. In theory. Well, I did. I have been playing this for a while and I had some success, so it shouldn't be that hard. Resilient. Resilient is usually a skill you can find in healers. Resilient is just something that's there to make you irritated. When you strike this enemy, it does not die. It needs to be attacked twice in a turn to die. Otherwise, if you attack it once, then it loses its protection and it will be vulnerable. So, for example, let's say the first turn, I attack it with. I need some space over here, please. I do not want to die. We attack it with Val and Haguna. Then it would lose Resilient, and we give her a token like this, which is useful for representing skills that have been exhausted. Then it would move downwards, you somehow achieve to make this, and then you attack it again and defeat it. Just like that. It's a bit irritating to deal with. However, there are some units like Vajana who have Dispatch. Dispatch overrules this skill, so she can kill it in one turn. So keep out an eye for that. What else? What else? Undying. It's similar to this Resilient, but when defeated, instead of going to the bounty, they reroll the dice and go over there once again. So, for example, let me show you what that icon looks like. We have where is you? Where are you? Where are you? Arachnobot. Okay. This Arachnobot has twice the Undying attribute. So, whenever you defeat it, you reroll the coordinate 6/6, place there, and add it an exhaust token. However, that unit will no longer move, so because it has been defeated. So you place it downwards like that to represent that it cannot move. At the start of the turn, you unflip it and plan out what it's going to be doing. Since over here it cannot move, so you will be doing vertical first and then upright. And then once you defeat it again, you reroll again. No, I said I reroll again. If that happens, just leave it there. Row 2, column 3, make a space for the Arachnobot, and then you would give the second exhaust token. And after that, you can defeat it normally. If you do not want to go through that painful experience, you can just use a unit with Dispatch to immediately dispose of it. Dispatch is much better in this game than it was in the original. Then we have, well, Everlasting. That's a skill that's not currently implemented. It's quite painful to deal with. When defeated, reroll its coordinates instead of dying as long as there are other monsters alive. So as long as you have not defeated everything in the board, you cannot keep something dead. You can see how that's going to be a pain. Then, next, Toxic. At the start of a player's turn, any adjacent seeker to the toxic monster cannot become the mover, participate in pincer attacks, or use offensive skills for the rest of the turn. To represent this, you just flip them downwards, upside down, I mean. And that means you cannot pick this to move around, it cannot make pincers like this, and it cannot even activate its abilities. A unit with Toxic is, for example, this. So this guy has Toxic. So if this unit was here, Zenthothe would be stunned. However, there are some allies that have Panacea. If you have such a skill, for example, let me find Palpa. Palpa has Panacea. You can just spend one charge of Panacea to unflip it and allow it to be the one doing stuff. Okay. We're almost done with the enemies. As if. Intimidating, we already talked about it. Dodgy. That's this icon. Dodgy units are immune against chain skill. So as you may have noticed by now, maybe not because I haven't really explained it yet, we have two types of offensive skills. We have pincer skills and chain skills. Pincer activate whenever they are doing the pincer. So, for example, if these two were pincering this stone mage, Grace would activate her pincer skill, attacking anyone who would be in this range. So anyone here would die, and anyone here would die. There is no friendly fire, so not anyone, just enemies would die. However, Zenzoce has a chain skill, and chains work differently. So whenever you have a unit with pincer doing a pincer, they activate such a skill. However, to activate the chain skill, you need to have this unit aligned with the one doing the pincer. So Grace and Shepardan strike down this Stone Mage, and since Zenzoce is aligned with Grace, he will activate his chain skill and defeat this mage, because it's immediately below Zenzoce. So yeah, you will make a double kill just like that by using this skill. Usually chain skills are harder to align, so pincer skills are more useful in general. But regardless of that, it's always useful to have offensive skills for a reason that's going to be explained soon. Then there are also some dual dual skills. Dual are a combination of chain and pincer. So let me show you. Amathora Lambda, the recorded version of Amathora, has dual, for example. So regardless of if Amathora is doing the pincer or just aligned with the one doing it, she will always activate her skill. Let's see, what else? We're almost done. Ah, yeah. Why did I explain that? Because this guy is immune to chain skills. So if this were here, it would not die to Zenzoce's strike. And similarly, ephemeral units, which are units with this icon, are immune against pincer skills. So if Grace were doing this attack with Zenzoce, these two would die, and Grace would attack this Orbling, but the Orbling has ephemeral and she has a pincer, so Orbling would survive. Which is a pity because she had advantage over Orbling. Okay. Let's see. Dodgy, ephemeral, and then we have warping, which is currently unimplemented. Whenever a warping enemy is deployed, you reroll the coordinates for all of your adventurers. So rip your positioning. Rolling. Whenever a rolling unit is deployed, they spark the last deployed monster's attack symbols. So let's say rolling is not currently implemented yet, so do not worry about that. But let's say we draw this, and it was a rolling unit, and this was the last unit we deployed. So we would spark this attack skill and activate immediately, wherever it is. So whoever is in this tile would die. Just like that. So that's also dangerous. And let's see. Spawner. While present, revive all defeated monsters from the area at the end of every turn. So kill that first, okay? What happens when you have a spawner with everlasting? Well, that's for you to decide. Okay. Yes, we finished. Okay. So, as I have already hinted at, you progress through the game by defeating every monster from each area. Once you have defeated every monster in every area, you win! That's your success. Thank you for playing. Now, between rounds, you will be gathering a bounty of points you have achieved by defeating enemies, and maybe accumulated some defeated units as well on the way. These defeated enemies are your points, and well, the defeated adventurers are uh, in great danger if you do not revive them. So let me find quickly Kuska or healer. So at the end of the turn of the round, I mean, once you have defeated every monster in the area, well, imagine they weren't here, okay? You could use your healer's skill to revive a defeated enemy, a defeated ally. So you would give the healer one stack of exhaustion, like this, and then you would revive them. As simple as that. If you do not, as I have already explained, if you do not revive them, the unit is lost forever. These points. Points are not kept between rounds, so do your best to spend all of them. Points can be used for many things, so let's go one by one, okay? You can spend 5 points to recruit a new normal non-recodified adventurer. So let's say we do not have a healer in our team and we had only 5 adventurers. So since we cannot bring back the dead, we would need to recruit a new one. So we spend 5 points and draw a new one. And that would be our 6th adventurer. Usually you want to always have 6 adventurers because that's the maximum you have. And if you, for some reason, only have 1 unit left, you lost the game. You cannot have only 1 unit to make pincers, can you? You can also spend 5 points to replace one of your units with a new non-recodified unit of a higher rarity. So for example, let's say Oclitot, what an ugly guy, I do not want Oclitot in my team. Or I mean, well, he's quite useful. I'm sorry Oclitot, I should have not said what I said. But I want stronger units, so I spend 5 points and recruit a new one. And replace the old unit with the stronger unit. The one replaced gets taken out of the game. So choose well. Then you can... also, what do I mean with non-recorded unit? That means that when you are improving your rarity, you cannot draw from these piles, which would be obvious because these are special. You draw from these 3. How do we access to the recodified versions then? Then that's easy. You spend just 2 points to recode a unit that can be recoded. However, for that to happen, for example, since we have just recruited Alika, we cannot recode her immediately. She has to survive an entire round to be able to be recoded. So since we have Grace, we could recode her if we pay 2 points, Servadan as well. Well, everyone who has recodifications. Then there are some skills that you can recharge. I mean, what is a recharge? It's removing the exhaust tokens. Thing is, revive cannot be recharged by normal means. You cannot recharge it by using points like this. But there are some skills like I don't know, tap spark, that you can restore the charges. For example, mine has a Giga Tap Spark, which is represented by the purple border for Tap Spark. Tap Spark would allow us to immediately trigger an offensive skill from any of our adventurers. So for example, if we Tap Sparked Alika's skill, we could choose to defeat this guy or this guy. Well, not this guy because it has dodge and Alika's skill is chain. So only this guy we would be able to kill. But that's something because you can do that without even the need of moving. So we give mine a token of exhaustion, and we, at the end of the round, we can pay 2 points, like this, to restore 1 charge. So that's how it works. What else? What else? Yes. Also, when you are, let's say, when you are improving a unit's rarity by drawing a new one to replace it with, let's say you got Gaiga, which is an amazing unit considering she has 3-6 skills. Damn, that's a good unit. Worlds apart from the original. Let's say you do not want her for whatever reason. Let's say you had already Haguna and you do not need archers. You just want spares. You want all the spares, no archers. Then you can spend one extra point to draw another one, and you can keep spending 1 point to keep drawing. And whenever you find someone you are okay with, you discard every unit you didn't want, replace whoever you decided to sacrifice with the latest unit. That's one way to try to get certain builds, but you should be careful because in one of my playthroughs, I foolishly simped for Olver too hard, and I decided to throw away almost all of the good healers from this rarity, even a recorded Palpa. I was crazy because I mean I was considering, uh, what could happen? I'm going to later find a Misandra who is a much better healer, which I can even record. It's okay if I throw away those healers. Do not. Do not throw away the healers. The healers are quite important to have in your team because if you start losing units, you're going to be struggling to finish the round. So be aware of that. Yes, and lastly, there is another use for these points, which are items. We have ignored this part over here for a long time, but let's get down to doing that. Okay, and right now, these are items. We have the usual rarity for the item. Let me find one that is rarity 1. Yeah, so much high rarity over here. Rarity 1. So, generally speaking, you can only use the items with units that wield the same weapon. So, for example, Pupru has a bow, so she could use these weapons, but she cannot wield a staff. So, that item can only be used by mages such as, well, Kuska would be able, right? But he doesn't have any offensive skill this can buff. So let me explain. These items allow for different things. There are many. There are some shields that grant you barrier. Barrier is a skill that prevents a unit from being killed for a duration for the rest of the turn. And there are skills that enhance your offensive capabilities. For example, this lunar bow. There are 5 icons over here. These are similar to the range for offensive skills. However, there is one that has no range, has it? That means that this bow is capable of giving offensive skills to those units that do not have such skills. So, for example, let me find an archer that doesn't have any offensive skill. Yeah. Mammer. Mammer has stun and triangle of carnage, but he doesn't have any pincer of chain or duel, nothing. So if you used this lunar bow on him, he would gain a chain of a skill of some intensity. Intensity means the range. Why do I say of some intensity? Look over here. I mean, let me do excuse me for a second. Yeah, over here. So take a look at this. These are literally the same weapon, the same item. They give a chain skill. However, if you can notice, behind these icons there is a differently colored line connecting all of them. Um, Brown is usually for intensity of 1 or mega. Purple is intensity of 2 or giga. Gray is intensity of 3 or tera. And golden is intensity of 4 or peta. So what does this mean? If we used Beast Bow on Marmer, Marmer would gain a chain skill of mega intensity. If we used a lunar bow on Marmer, Marmer would get instead a chain skill of giga because it would go twice, whereas in here it would go only once. With that same logic, if we used these items on Pupru, who already has a pincer skill, she would improve this twice. So if we use the lunar bow, so she would get a beta usage of her skill. It doesn't need to be chained, and then the beast bow would allow her to use a Terra because it improves only once. This icon over here about chain is only for those who do not have any skill. It specifies which of the two they give. Alright, then we have spark bows, spark weapons. If we had Pupru in a good position, say if we had her over here, we could easily use this witch bow to spark her skill and improve it once. So instead of using a giga pincer, she would use a tera pincer. So let's say this guy were here, and if Pupru were here and we use this witch bow on her, her range would increase to a tera intensity, so she could either strike this healer or this stone mage. There are some weapons that also have, let me see if I find some. Look, this is the barrier, a shield that I was talking about. There are some weapons, however, that also have dual cast. Dual cast is a skill that you will want to find sooner or later because it allows you to strike two enemies at once. So let's say if we had this weapon but for bows and we used it on Pupru, Pupru would be able to kill the stone mage and the healer, whereas before you could only hit one of the two. So that's it for the explanation of items. Well, not quite. Let me fix this. So, as I said, there are some items that have simple skills like barrier. They do not have such complicated usage. This also, and this. Also, we need to talk about staffs as well. So this skills barrier grants barrier to whoever you choose, and once you do that, you give the item an exhaust token, and since this is a intensity 2, it would be able to be used once again. However, there is a catch. You can only use items once per round. So even if you have charges left on your item, you will not be able to keep abusing it. So plan ahead. Also, look at this. This is the only way you can restore uses for your revives. It does add a revive. White lamps are godsend. You want them. You really, really want them in your in your items. Each turn you should be using them whenever possible because you cannot spend all of its charges at once. So also, what are the price tags on these things? So, normal items cost 2 points, rare items cost 3 points, and special items cost 4 points. At any point, you can only have a maximum of 3 items on your on whatever you decide to put your items. So do try to keep your... Well, if you want to buy something and you do not have the free space for it, you can just discard it, because, well, you are losing points by doing that, so it's not in your favor. Also, staffs. I have neglected to talk about something very important thus far. Uh, Here she is. So, she is a mage. She has an offensive skill that has a different range. Mages have mm, differently positioned ranges. Let's say, I mean, archers always strike diagonally, spears always strike vertically, and sword users always strike horizontally. Mages, however, strike in different patterns. So if Diana was aligned with someone doing a pincer, then we have too many cards over here. I'm very sorry about that. So let's see. If Diana were here, and this Zenzoze and Pupru would be pincering the healer, and Diana would activate her chain skill, and she would strike either here or here. So she would be able to kill the lizard hero. And that's about it. But mages work differently with these items. Whenever they use an item, instead of getting their normal range, attack range, they the item's attack range gets superposed. So Diana's next chain attack would have this pattern instead of, well, whatever there were. Do excuse me for that. So, since this is a level 1 item, it would improve only once and to this one. So that's the attack pattern that Diana would be using. Okay, so how do items work normally? At the start of every round, you draw 3 cards from here and leave them upside down. At the end of the round, when you have defeated all enemies, you turn them looking up, and then you can opt to purchase them if you want to spend the points. However, this deck grants us a new possibility. What am I talking about? I'm talking about extra things that are random. These units over here are metal minions. These could be considered like bonus things. As you can see, these guys have a lot of icons on them. But let's go one by one, okay? So, generally speaking, all of them have these 3 icons. Oh, I think I have forgotten to include this on the rules. Oh well. This is ephemeral, this is dodgy. This means that none of these units are going to be killed by offensive skills. You need to pincer them manually. A manual pincer would be like this. So Diana and Zenzoze would be manually pincering this metal Gorf. This icon over here means that if this guy is not defeated by the end of the first turn, it will be immediately removed from the game. So catch them quickly before they can escape, just like in the original. There are some other skills, and well, some are trickier than others. And they have quite simple patterns. They're going to be striking diagonally like that, horizontally, in a cross, vertically, or this guy strikes the entire area. So beware of that. That's something very tough to deal with, and it has heavy, so it can easily start screwing with you. Okay, so what do you do with this? If you want these extra enemies to be in your campaign, you just add them to this pile and shuffle. Whenever you... none of this. Whenever you draw one of these like that, then you roll its coordinates and place it wherever. Oh no, that's dangerous. Well, once it's defeated, you get it to the points if you defeat it successfully, or it goes away if you didn't kill it in time. Just like that. And there is supposedly going to be also some some obstacles that are going to be semi-permanent in the board, just to give you some more headaches. But I haven't made them yet, so you got lucky. Okay. What else is there to talk about? I think that's it. Ah, yes. Uh, mm, mm, mm. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Ah, yes. And any point you have not spent by the end of the turn gets removed. So do try to spend them. And that will be everything for points. And now the last thing we need to talk about: skills for adventurers. There are many, so we're going to be here for a while. If you're tired, you can take a break. Maybe follow the maybe continue this video later. I'm going to push through. I want to finish this. Okay. After that, I'm going to make one round so that you can see how the game should be played. That maybe that would be enough to cover all the possibilities, but well, with practice you will learn. So let me get this back. Ah, so clean. So yes, like I was saying, there are different intensities for the skills. We have Mega, which is orange, we have Giga, which is purple, Terra, grey, and Peta, golden. Intensity of 1, 2, 3, and 4. These tokens, well, we'll be dealing with them soon. This is a secondary exhaustion token because, I mean, for example, Palpa has two skills that can be exhausted. She has Revive and she has Panacea. So one exhaust token could be used for Revive and the other for Panacea. Okay, skills. Yeah, normally the intensity represents how many times a skill can be used. So, for example, Palpa has a Mega Panacea, Mega Revive. That means that these skills can only be activated once before they cannot no longer be activated. So, I mean, unless you recharge them, that is. But currently, Revive is the only skill you cannot recharge. But intensities work differently for offensive skills. So, for example, Harold has a Mega Pincer, which for non-mages the intensity increases the... No, for every unit the intensity increases the range of the offensive skill, including mages. So let me find a powerful mage so that I can properly explain. Yeah, Feno. Just look at her attack range. She strikes too many tiles, and she has a good movement and quite an interesting skill. Channel, what is that? In the original game, there was this thing called metabolize and hypermetabolize. I wanted to give a new name for mages, so I just used channel. But let's go one by one, okay? Yeah. The attack range should be intuitive enough. I mean, I have already explained it, but let me find Val. Where is Val? Where is Val? I cannot find her. Um, Damn. Where is Val? Well, Val is gone. No, really, where is Val? Damn. Am I blind? Wow. Well, I should not be spending this much time worrying over this, but I cannot help but worry. Val is one of the best units in the game.
She should be over here. Ah, here she is. Damn. Ah, do excuse me, but well. So well, I'm not going to be talking about Holy Trinity yet. I just wanted to show you the different intensity skills to help understanding the ranges. So for sword users, the increase in intensity means further horizontally. So with a mega sword, she can strike here. With a Giga sword, she can strike here. With a Terra, she can strike here. And with a Beta, she can strike here. On the other side, Makuri, with a Giga, he can strike here. With a Giga, he can strike twice as far. With a Beta, he could go all the way. With I'm mixing my words. And well, with a Beta, so this small one is for Mega, Giga, Tera, and well, Beta would be more useful if Makuri were here. So he would be able to strike 1, 2, 3, and 4. All the way there. From over here. Yeah, that's about it for intensities, I think. Yes. So without further ado, let's dig into the big list. So we had pinfers, we had chains, we also had dual, which is a mix of pinfer and chain. Then we have dual cast, which is an skill exclusive for items that grants you the ability to strike twice as many enemies. Stun, let me find someone with stun real quick. Where is this dark guy? Here. Stun skill. Whenever there is an enemy adjacently to this unit, you can choose one of them to be stunned. This unit cannot move until the start of next turn. As simple as that. Before it was everyone who was adjacent, but that was too strong for such a simple skill, so nerfs were needed. Taps. Taps are interesting skills that are usually exclusive for the rarest of rarities. So, for example, we have Tap Spark, which was activating immediately a skill from an ally. We have Tap Stun, which is whatever, regardless of position, stun whoever you want. That's real good, because that's one of the ways you can prevent fast enemies from suddenly murdering you. And trust me, a little spoiler, but you're going to be needing that. Okay? You are going to be needing this Tap Stun, so search for it. Do what it takes to find one. We also have Tap +2, which increases your mover's movement by 2. And there was one more, wasn't there? Tap Switch. Tap Switch is something exclusive to these two units. Muto and Shinen. They can switch places with whoever. I mean, well, you tap the skill and you can exchange the contents of two tiles, whichever you want. I mean, if you want Harold to be over here, he can go there. If you want Harold and Val to switch places, they can do that. All at the low cost of just one tap. Neat. Then we have the Triangle of Carnage skill. So, this little thing within Imperna. Triangle of Carnage is a skill that grants all of your same weapon wielding adventurers advantage over mages. So, as I already said, swords have advantage over bows, bows over spears, and spears over swords. However, there are some enemies that have staffs. So let me find one real quick. Like this. If we hit her with Val and Harold, it would not die because but it would die, yes, but without advantage. You would only get 1 point from this. However, if we had Perna in the same team, Perna would buff all sword users, including herself, to have advantage over mages. So it would be defeated with an extra point. So that's one way to quickly rally your points and build a strong team quite quickly. So you want to be finding units with these skills and build maybe a team around this to buff sword users, archers, whichever you decide to build, or whichever RNG gives you. What else? What else? There are also Triangle of Carnage for archers and for spares, but there are not for mages. There is something similar to Triangle of Carnage, which is Treasure Hunter. Treasure Hunter is a skill that grants a unit the skill to, regardless of whoever that unit is defeating. Oh no, I made a terrible mistake. Okay. Regardless of whoever that unit is defeating, when it actually defeats that enemy, it gets an extra point. So, let's say Alika defeats, give me an enemy, this guy, with Veno. Alika and Veno do not have advantage over the warrior, but since Alika has Triangle of Carnage, this warrior will always yield 1 point extra. However, even if this wasn't a warrior, but for example the Orbling, Alika would now have advantage. In this case, you would not gain 2 extra points, just 1. It just is one way to always gain 1 extra point, regardless of whoever you're defeating. But it won't count twice, you know? That would be too strong. Let's continue. Revive. Well, what I have already explained. At the end of the round, you spend as many charges of revive as you want to revive as many defeated units as you have, unless they have been taken out of the game, in which case they are dead. Counter. Whenever an enemy moves against a unit with counter, if that adventurer has triangle vantage or weapon vantage over that monster, the monster gets defeated instead of the adventurer. So let me quickly show this. Where is Oclitot when you need him? Oclitot. Here he is. So, if Oclitot were to be hit by this Orbling, then Oclitot would die. But if Oclitot were to be defeated by the warrior, since Oclitot has a spear which has advantage over the sword, then this warrior is the one that gets defeated, and with Triangle of Vantage, so that skill is quite useful. In the same manner, if you were to be attacked by a mage while you enjoy Triangle of Carnage for spares, then they would also get defeated with advantage. That is why there are some units that enjoy both of these skills at once. For example, Leo. Where is Leo? Leo. Damn, I'm really bad at finding these units when I want them to appear. Leo. Here she is. Counter and Triangle of Carnage. So she is untouchable by many enemies. Okay, let's continue. Ribbon. A unit with Ribbon is immune against hot, chilly, toxic, and deadly. Just that, as simple as that. Hot was the enemy attribute that pushed your units upwards. Chilly was the one that pushed downwards. Toxic was the one that stunned. And deadly is the unit that made the unit go into the dead into the cemetery. Yeah, the one that removed your defeated adventurers immediately from the game. This patch nullifies enemies resilient and undying, and well, also everlasting and many others. But since those are yet unimplemented, only resilient and undying. Negotiator. When defeating an enemy, turn them into an unmoving ally, giving them a pink chip. That's what this is for. You can only have a, a friendly monster at one point, so you cannot have multiple. Um, these friendly monsters cannot be moved, but they can be flipped over, so you can move them around with with an adventurer, and they can also participate in pincer attacks. They can also be mid shields. They can be defeated by other monsters by getting in the way and making them stop. I considered making them move as well, which could be interesting, but I think that would be too OP. I mean, if you get, let me show you. If you get crazy units, if you've managed to recruit a friendly unit with, if you manage to recruit this Peprope, just look at that range. It would wipe the entire board for you. That would be too good. I mean, I want Peprope to be killing you, not making your life much easier. I am too cruel to do nice things. So yeah, they cannot move. They just stay there, and you can maybe move them around for your convenience, and they can even attack enemies. When at the end of the round they are removed and added to your bounty. If they manage to defeat an enemy, they increase their value by 1. So that's also something to keep look at. I have already explained Treasure Hunter, so let's see. Chain Plus, Extended Chain, as it was called in the original. Extended Chain is something you might recognize. So, Amisandra, Amina have Extended Chain. Extended Chain, well, I also gave it to Amimari because it wasn't fair that she didn't get the same treatment. So, if Amina is in the board, let's say, give me an enemy, and give me another chain unit here. So, let's say, Alika and Feno defeat this knight. But mine is not aligned, well, not that guy, this guy. But mine is not aligned with Alika or Feno. But thankfully, Amina is indeed aligned with Feno. So Amina can serve as a node to extend that chain. So since Amina is aligned with Feno and mine is aligned with Amina, mine's ability would activate. You can see why this is crazy, especially in a mage team. So yeah, do try to find the Amis in the game. They are your your most desired units. They are even healers. You want them, okay? Then we have Holy Trinity. Holy Trinity is a skill that in-game does not exist. Holy Trinity was the title that 3 units in particular received due to them being very powerful despite them being a low rarity. Those units were Bal, Makuri, and Snipe, one from sword, spear, and bow. In the original, Holy Trinity was a multiplier. A multiplier for damage output is crazy. So in this game I just gave them Holy Trinity and called it a day. Holy Trinity is a skill that at the end of every round they increase their intensity by 1 permanently. So Val will start with a Mega Pincer, which is, although there is no Pincer word in there, there is this icon, which is usually the one you find in Pincers like this. This is the icon for chains, okay? This one.
To represent the Val would start with Mega Pinsir. At the end of the round, you give her this token to represent that she has a Giga skill now. At the end of the next round, you gave her a Terra token to represent that she has a Terra Pinsir now. Once you do recode the Val, you would where is she? Val. Here. You would start over, yes, but at least you can reach beta, and her range, free range, is increased, so that's also good, and her steps go up. So that's one way to easily get access to a maximum intensity skill. And then we have capsules and bombs. You may have noticed that there are some units with some icons like this, or this, or well, there are no icons for capsules over here. Let me find my boy, Orber, who has a capsule. So, for units with these items, whenever you start at the start of every round, whenever you have in your team a unit with these skills, you draw one for each. So if you have 2 bombers, you draw 2 bombs, and if you have 1 capsule user, you draw 1 capsule. You roll the coordinates and place them wherever. A capsule is an item that gets consumed as long as it is aligned with a unit doing a pincer. Let's say this guy were here. So, Alika and Feno would strike the knight, but then Dracorin would kill Feno. That's not good. However, since this was here, it got aligned with Feno and gave her barrier. So capsules give barrier whenever they align it with a unit doing a pincer. That's one way to easily protect your units. However, if you do this and you kill that, if an enemy moves over a capsule or a bomb, the capsule or bomb gets removed. So beware of that, and they do not stop. That doesn't stop their movement. Bombs are differently. When a bomb gets struck by skill, whether a pincer or a chain, they defeat every monsters aligned with it. Not aligned, immediately adjacent to them. So if there were a monster here and here, these 2 units would die. You get them as points. But if it were here and there, then only this one would die. Then corners are not included in the package. And then we also have skills that that consume bombs and capsules. In the original game you only ate capsules, but I wanted to have bombs have some other use. So we have metabolize and channel. Metabolize are usually for warriors, whereas channel is usually for mages. Let me quickly find a metabolize unit. Saplar. Whenever a unit with metabolize moves over a bomb or a capsule, the capsule or bomb gets consumed, increasing the intensity of the skill by 1. So Saplar would now have a mega dual skill. If she ate another bomb, she would have a Terra dual skill that can get out of hand pretty quickly. Thing is, those only last until the end of the round, so at the end of the round you just remove the bombs and restore her to her usual state. Mages like Feno have channel. Channel is similar to metabolize. They eat both bombs and capsules and increase something accordingly to the amount of capsules and bombs they have consumed. So if she has consumed 1, she gets a Giga token. If she has consumed 2, she gets a Terra token.
the range is not what's improved with a channel skill. What's improved is how many units they can strike at once. So if Feno were to be the one to be aligned here, and she had eaten these two capsules and bombs, she would be able to maybe wipe out the entire board. So let's say there were these two over there, and this over here. So, Euclid Analika once again strike this knight. Feno activates her chain skill, and she has quite a crazy range, right? So she can kill this, this, and this at once in the same move, because she has like a dual cast for each capsule and bomb she has consumed. So that's the way you get those AoE attacks in there. Okay. That's it for Metabolize and Channel. Then we have Barrier, which is the skill I already mentioned here, with shields. Give me a shield. Okay, here. So you spend one charge from this skill to give Barrier to a unit. Barrier is represented by giving these black tokens. Also, some units have adjacent barrier, like Palpa. Units with this skill can choose to give one of the adjacent units barrier. So for the rest of the turn, this unit will be immune to damage. But you can only do that to one ally that's adjacent. It's not as good as having an item. Then we have adjacent buff. That's something you would be... the icon for adjacent buff is... you will recognize it. It's for EX, for the Seasoned Pro. Adjacent buff, it's as simple as that. If it is adjacent to an ally, for the rest of the turn, you can give an increased token for whichever offensive skill they have. So, for example, if we had mine over here, we could give mine for the rest of the turn a Terra skill. At the end of the turn, it gets removed and it goes back to normal. But this skill can be used once every turn, so that's pretty neat. And then we have Panacea, which we already talked about. It can spend one charge to unflip Stun Adventurers. And we have Levitation and Stealth. I was considering having some obstacles to work with to give a meaning to these two skills, but I said, hey, why not upgrade Stealth into an OP state? I wanted Stealth to be Stealth Levitation. So Stealth and Levitation. So in the original game there was a skill called Stealth that allowed you to move through enemies. So if Gego Nago were to move towards the right, it would be 1 step, 2 steps. Because it has stealth, it can move over the enemy, but they do not flip. So if you had a unit over here, you could quite easily do 1 step, 2 steps, and switch tiles like that, allowing units to get where they would normally be unable to access. Levitation is literally the same. However, there is a catch. With stealth, you cannot move past .g units. So this knight has .g, so you cannot move past it. It blocks you, so to say. But you can just move over here and there, or diagonally directly, because the healer is not going to be stopping you. On the other hand, levitation does not work on ephemeral units. So if it tried to move over the Orbling, it wouldn't be able to do that. However, Gekonago is a special case because he has both. Unless the enemy has both dodgy and ephemeral, he can always move through enemies. Some units have only levitation, some units have only stealth. They are good movers because they're going to be able to set the board correctly for you. So look out for them as well. We're almost done. Only one left. Dodge! There are not so many dodge skills, but there are some. Dodge. It basically allows you to dodge an attack skill. So let's say we have Aurora Deer Orbling doing its entire. Well, let's move the things out for him. Orbling moves all the way down and strikes the entire column. This is a massacre. Everybody is dead. Everybody dies to the Orbling. But Kapori has a dodge skill. Dodge skills allows you to dodge attack patterns. But if Orbling were to ram through Kapori, then Kapori is dead. The only thing that survives a moving pattern is a barrier. If Kapori had barrier, because Palpa gave him that, then the Orbling would stop just there and stop its action, because it did try to attack it. No, it wouldn't attack the entire row. It's safe, it's safe. So that's it. Yeah. We're done! That's it for the rules. I hope that showed you how to play the game, at least in its current state. So, I'm going to be making a fast round to show how it would be played generally. So let's see, who do we get? Yay, 2 healers, that's good. That would be awesome if only this weren't a test run. But anyway, let's draw our 6. You're in the way. Our 6 enemies and our 3 items. Well, let me put the metal minions in there. Okay, no metal minions for this round. So also, to begin the game, I forgot to mention this. You set your units wherever you want on the board, but it has to be on their free range tiles. So Sorman, I could place him there. Iskar, I'm going to place him over here. Kuska is going to stay there. Samu P is going to be here. Maldor is going to be down here. And Farl is going to be around here. I usually select this kind of pattern to maximize pincers in any way I can. So let's start. We roll the coordinates, row 6, column 1. Oof, that's a tough spot. Column 4, row 4, column 3, it's taken, so the opposite is also taken, so we reroll again. Unless it is a heavy unit. No, it is not. So row 1, column 4. Row 5, column 5. Row 2, column 5. Row 4, column 2. And row 6, column 4. And since this unit has ice, all of my units move once to the bottom. Okay, that's nice. I'm already making 2 pincers over here, this and this. Nice, a good way to start this. So, what do you do at the start of every round? Initially, you start from the left column, drawing the lines for what the enemy is going to do. Since the archer cannot move down left, it will flip and take the reverse action. The Orbling will, since this archer is going to flip switch positions with the archer, the Orbling will be here, so it will instead be flipped and strike entire column and move up. So I'm going to be drawing that. So for movement, white color, And for movement, another white color. And for the strike, the red. Down, down, down. You cannot move in that direction, so you're going to move like that. You move down and down right. This mage is going to be moving once to the left. Warrior is going to be moving once to the right, because that is all it can move. And then you're going to move to the right, and since the second arrow cannot be taken, it will take the reverse. So there. Okay, that would be the first drawing of the moving patterns. So, what can we do? Obviously, I want to kill this archer because it's going to be messing up. Well, actually it's quite irrelevant right now. The archer is not doing anyone any damage. So, who do I want to kill? I'd like to kill this mage as well. So by moving Kuska once to the bottom, that would be perfect, which he can easily do. Do I do that though? I can maximize this. Can I? No, these are chain skills and most of these units have dodgy, so I cannot just have a Scar use his chain skill. What I can do, however, is that Scar has counter, so if I get him in the way of this knight, I can immediately kill him. So I'm going to be doing just that. Okay, the archer is free to do what he pleases. Wait a minute. If the archer does move, then the knight would get over here, Scar will kill it, but then the warrior would remove Scar from the game. Then, well, he would kill Scar. That's not good. So I'm going to be placing Scar maybe there. So let's see if I can do this. So, Scar is going to be my mover for this round. He has 4 movement and that's quite nice. So, free range, because this is his free range. 1 move. This is still his free range. 2 moves. 3 moves. Hold on a second. I lost. Let's see. Free range. 1 move. Back into the free range. The second move. Free range. Free range. And then I can move just the third movement and call it a day. That's it. It's done. So, what's going to happen? Let me show you. Firstly, we kill this Orbling with Farrell, who has advantage over him, so these are 3 points we get. Then, Kuska and Maldor defeat this mage, normally, because they do not have advantage. Also, no, Maldor does not have any skill. Okay, I forgot, I thought I saw this skill, and I saw the capsule and the bomb icon, and I thought I had to summon something, but no, we don't. I also completely forgot to buff Iskar, but it's whatever. I was not going to be using that skill, so you can maybe forget something sometimes whenever it is not as relevant. Too bad. If we had some way to buff Samu P, he would be able to strike the warrior as well, but oh well. So, the healer gets killed by Samu P and Maldor, normally, because we do not have Jungle of Carnage, that's only for archers. And then the enemies move. So, firstly, the archer goes all the way there and moves the warrior once down to the left. Then the knight tries to attack Iskar, but since he is in disadvantage, it gets killed by counter. So that's another extra point for us. Yeah, that's it. The first turn is over. We raise all the lines, and let's draw them anew. Yep, like this. So this warrior is going to be moving like that, and then the archer is going to come back. Oh yes, I also forgot to mention something. To prevent stalling, because you can stall in this game by simply dodging the enemy's attack patterns, um, whenever you spend one turn without getting a kill, you will lose one of your achieved points. So if right now I decided to not do anything because I am not in any danger right now, uh, I would lose this card and it would go away into the cards that have been spent. Also, this is kinda in the way, so let's remove this. So it will go away. But I'm not going to do that. I can get this. I can kill them. The archer, how do I dispose of him? It has dodgy, so I can really not do anything to kill it. Ah, that sucks. Yeah, I'm just going to be killing this and then I will... Yeah, that's easy. So, I mean, as long as you take one kill, you're good to go. So I just move one SMOP within his free range. Everything's okay to go. So, okay, the warrior is dead with one touch. And then the archer goes all the way back here. And then it will try to move all the way to the other corner. And I decide to... Let's see, do I have a sword user? Nope. So whoever is fine. Swordman moves into the free range and one downwards. One step. One of the four steps Swordman could take. And we kill the archer. Normally. And that would be it. Round is over. We triumphed over the first area. Now, the second area is hell. I do not want to face this enemy, so I'm going to be leaving that. No, yes, I'm going to be making it. I need to make it, because that's where trouble starts coming and you need to be prepared for that. So, we have points. What do we do with those? Firstly, we flip this to check what we got. Oh, add revives. That's nice. I want both of them. But I also need to improve my units. So, let's see, how many points do we have? These are 3 points and other 2 points, so 5 points in total over here. 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 5. So we could theoretically improve our units twice. Counter is something I really want to keep around, at least for the next area, considering the enemies that are going to be coming to defeat us. I need Kuska and Swordman to stay in my team, at least until the next round is over. Having a wealth of healers in your team is always a good thing. Farl has survived an entire turn, so I could very well just recode her, which I'm going to do. Let's recode her. So you remove the older version and replace it with a better one. She gets Negotiator and an increase in her movement and the free range. So that's a better unit. We spend 2 points to get that. So 2 points are gone. We have only 3 points left. So we can increase someone. I'm not going to be using Maldor. I am not. So we spend 3 points and 2 points. So that's 5. 5 for a new unit. Let's see. Ha! Destiny, come at me. Ricken, Stuntman Negotiator. Damn, we're negotiating with these enemies, huh? Do I keep Ricken? Yes, I'm keeping her. Farley does have a Triangle of Carnage, so right now bows are my priority. So yeah, who do I remove? Maldor. All the way, Maldor. I mean, he had a Channel, which is an insane skill for a normal unit, but I do not have any capsule or bomb, so that's not for this state of the game. For this stage of the game. So, and we have 3 points left we can spend. I want to purchase one of these. Or maybe this? We do not have sword users, so I'm just going to get this Regen Ring by spending 2 points. And I have 1 point left, which I cannot spend anywhere. Oh well. then the point gets spent without any use. These two get removed. Please stop doing weird things. Okay. Oh, also there is a rule. Whenever you can only get one metal minion per round. So if that happens, just reshuffle. We select the coordinate for this enemy. Row 3, column 5. Okay, not so bad. And that's it. Okay, let's roll. Let's really roll the coordinates for this, which I am scared. I really am. This area is not nice with anyone. Okay, that's good. In fact, that's awesome, but that's not going to stay that nicely for long. Trust me. Okay, another that's irrelevant. Row 1, column 4. Ew, another irrelevant one. I'm glad. Row 3, column 2. It moves immediately. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, but I have to move it before I take any action. Why do I do that? Because if you had a tap stun unit or a stunner, you could prevent that move from happening. But you have to finish doing all the summoning before it takes an action. So 1, 5 over here. Oh, so there's the other one. That's a good position for them. For the Spinetrich, nice. And 2, 6. 2, 6. Okay, let's see. So, this guy moves first, and then that guy, because this is closer to the left. So, up, they switch. Down right, down left to the border, and up again. Nice. It's yes! Yes! Nice! Let me explain. The Spinetrich is going to attack Iskar, but as you can see, Iskar has counter, and he has a bow, and Spinetrich has a spare. He has disadvantage, so it gets immediately killed. Yeah, take that. Yes, this. I promise, this must be one of the best, if not the best, possible combination that has occurred to me in this second area. Ah, yes, blessed. Okay, so let's start drawing the lines, shall we? Yeah, take that, Spinetrich. So you move up, you cannot move anymore, so down. This Dracorin is in a bad place because, I mean, if the second arrow or the third cannot be taken, they just stop over there. So that's nice. So the next one to move is like this, like that, like this, like that. Here and then strikes all of this. The next one is no, wait. You wait. You move all the way there, and then you strike like that, and you make this attack pattern. Okay. Ah, look at this. This is so easy to deal with. I've been in so much worse. Ah, situations. I cannot believe this is so easy. Ah, really, this is quite easy. And oh, also, if this is too much for you, you can just draw. You put the 6 units from one area and draw. Well, and roll the coordinates as many you want and stop whenever you want. You set the difficulty. Although you can never place less than 3, so keep that in mind. And well, there should also be a rule that makes that in the last area you have to put everyone. Forcibly. All the 6 enemies from last area. Otherwise it's pointless to have a final boss over there. Let me give you a sneak peek of the final boss. This icon was area 1, right? With a circle behind it means that it attacks the entire board. So unless you kill it, it kills you. The final boss! Okay, let's do it. This video has gone for far too long, so let's end this. Okay, this is that. This is not bothering anyone. This is not bothering anyone as well. This is committing suicide against this, so I'm going to be attacking this metal minion with some OP and Iskar, I think. Can I do it? I think I can. Yes. Oh, and this wee Orbling is going to become my friend. Nice. Not that I cared, but anyway. So, let's have this. Free range, one movement, two moves, back into the free range, free range, free range. Alright. So, wait a second. Wait a second, wait a second, wait a second. How was this? Yes, like that. Phew, I almost... No. It was fine. It was fine. I thought Samupi was the one with the counter skill. I made a mistake. So, firstly, we defeat this wee Orbling and make him into an ally. So that's a friend now, because we had Negotiator. At the end of the turn, he will be turned into points. Now we defeat this Metal Orbling with Vantage because we had a spare. So that's more points. Then we're getting a lot of points this round. And that's it. Enemies move. So they move like that and stop. Up, up left, up left strike, and kills itself. Perfect. Let's erase all the lines. Yes. And redraw them. This should be quick. So this Dracorin can no longer move towards the top, so he will be just doing this. Moves down, upright, down. This Gorf is going to be here, so it cannot take its first step, so it will move like this and this. Then you are going to be moving this and strike the rose. I do not enjoy this placement of my enemies. That's tough to get into. I mean, I cannot pincer the Dracorin or the Gorf, I can only pincer the wee Orbling. If I somehow removed the Orbling from there by using a pincer skill that could reach there, or a chain skill as well. I am seeing what I have to do. So, Iskar over here. If I place Iskar there, he could use chain when someone pincers here to defeat this Dracorin, this guy, and this guy will move to the right, but since we have triangle advantage thanks to Farl and this Iskar has counter, it would die as well. The thing is, how do I get Iskar here, another unit there, and another unit there? That's simple. We don't. That's the tricky part. We don't. Well, Riken could do it. Couldn't she? She has good movement. And she has 5 movement. So let's attempt to do it. So free range, let's for my sake I am going to be drawing the free range with lines so that I can have an easier time visualizing this. I recommend you also do this in case this is too hard to visualize sometimes. So we take all of these movements. So first move. That was the first tile, 1. We can keep cycling this for a few times. And we get these guys here. This should be here. So Iskar is already where we want him to, so we can keep cycling.
Riken is a very good mover, in case you haven't noticed. And since Iskar is here, we can take the diagonal movement into her free range and keep cycling. Yeah, she's a maniac, maniac on the floor. Also, we're going to be doing this, so second movement into the free range again, and third movement, and we did it. So we killed this guy with Triangle of Carnage. Iskar kills the Dracorin without Triangle because bow versus bow, and with its chain skill, this guy doesn't have dodgy, so it cannot dodge us. And then this guy will move to the right and down, but since this guy is in the way and we have Triangle of Carnage with a counter archer, it dies with advantage. Almost a perfect round. This is a lot of points, okay? That was really nice. Yes. Oh, also, we get this. It didn't kill anyone normally, so just 1 point. Alright, let's see, what do we get? Oh, a shield, I want that. I'm going to buy it immediately. No time to think. I just want it, okay? Having a barrier is also one of the ways you can survive a fast unit. You need this, okay? What was also there? Swords and stuff. We do not care for those. So, I say we improve our team, shall we? So Riken cannot. Yeah, Riken is good. I'm keeping her. Iskar is being a really good unit, much better than I originally thought he would be. So I'm keeping him around as well. Samupi, his sad buff is real neat because we have. No, actually, we do not have that many. We only have Iskar, and most often than not, he's not going to be adjacent to Iskar. So maybe him? No, but I want him. Having a spare is so useful. So we spend 3 points and plus 2, 5. We're going to improve someone. I don't know who yet, but we're doing it. And we got Thafit, a levitation with a bomb summon, and she can be recoded. And if I am not mistaken, she got when recoded a ribbon, which is not as useful as, for example, say Bona, whatever she is. She has adjacent buff. I'd rather have an adjacent buff than ribbon, but ribbon is useful, maybe. And Zafit is overall a good mover, unlike Bona, I think. So yeah, Zafit is staying as well. I'm thinking of getting rid of either Kuska or Sorman. I do not want to lose. My recommendation, always have at least 2 healers, because if one gets killed, the other won't, you won't be able to recover them. Although, if you got a unit with chargers killed, they lose all of their chargers, so bear that in mind as well. There are many rules in this game, it's quite complex, I know, but you can ignore. Since this is TTS, we're talking about Tabletop Simulator, allows you to do whatever you please. I mean, this is a card you can make, oh, I'm going to fight, wah, wah, bye bye, have a good time. You can do whatever you please, so yeah, do that. Just I made the cards, I made the board, I made the things. I didn't make the art. That's from Mistwalker. So you can do whatever you want. As if you want to play, I don't know, maybe turn this into a Yu-Gi-Oh kind of game. Do it. So yeah, Zafit, we're keeping her. Or do I reroll? I want levitation. She's a good mover. And she goes places Zafit cannot. Yeah, I'm going to keep her. Thing is, who do I remove?
All my units are good. I cannot remove neither Iskar or Far because those two are my powerhouses. Riken is here to stay. Samupi is quite nice, but I'm not keeping him, regrettably. So bye bye Samupi, thank you very much for your efforts. Let's see, how many points do we have left? 2, 3, 4, 5. We can increase another one. Heck, we can maybe even remove the feat immediately and get a special unit if we wanted to. Senala, a channel unit with a crazy chain skill. Crazy, area 1. But that's quite good because she can target anyone around her. Yeah, her recorded version didn't summon bombs, and I had no bomb to feed to Senala, so right now she is not as good. So I'm going to spend this extra point, at least one of the two that are within this card, to draw another one. Mithel. Mithel was good. She was. Tap Spark, yes. Give me. I want Mithel. Yes, nice. So let's get everything to whatever it should. And Senala, regrettably, is not going to join our team, but Mithel is awesome. So Mithel is going to be replacing, as we said, Thafit. Okay, so, well, what we're going to be making is, once we recode Mithel, she's going to have Tap Spark, and that's going to allow us to activate our skills wherever we are. And she can even activate her own skills, so a great skill to have. And well, that's going to be it for this video. I explained the rules, I showcased some of the video. I hope your brain is not hurting too much from all the rules uh, I made you suffer. But anyway, that's going to be it, okay? So, yeah, I hope you enjoy the game. I'm going to keep working on it. I truly am. But since I currently do not have as much free time as I used to, I'm not going to be working so often on it. So in the meantime, I decided to publish this for you to enjoy. And hey, Terra Battle is not completely dead anymore. I am quite proud of that. I hate it seeing the Reddit and the Discord so silent about Terra Battle. Yes. Well, maybe one day we may uh, bring Mistwalker's attention back to this franchise and have it revive from its shadows, maybe as an offline game. I mean, I don't care in which shape or form it does return, as long as it's back to as it returns to us. So yeah, once again, my name is Makereth. I also go by the name of Angel Emil. And well, that was Terra Battle, the fun game. I hope you have fun with it. Bye bye!